everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. I'm so excited today. We are here to do another one of our kind of crazy rankings where my friend Jen and I rank all the different movies that we have seen together. We last did this in May. So that one was covering well over a year for sure. Yeah. And I didn't do a movies I saw in November video like I've been doing most months because it would have taken so long. I've seen over 70 Christmas movies alone, so there's no way I could do it. And so I thought this would be kind of a good other option to do to talk about. And so I'm really excited about this. I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and my very good friend Jen is here again to talk about all these fun movies that we get to see together.
Yes, and I'm the lucky one that gets to go with Rachel to a lot of these movies, and I enjoy it, and she's a treat to watch with. So it's fun to figure these things out and to decompress and talk about all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it might sound cloying, but I really do miss when you're not there because it's just not the same. It's
right, because we have to work through it. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. And so I'll put a link down to our first ranking. And I'm normally not a fan of rankings because I just feel like, first of all, you can never please anybody because you're never going to have the ranking that they want you to have. But second of all, it's just so hard because I like things for different reasons. And I also usually, when most people do rankings, it's a bunch of stuff that I feel basically the same about. So it's just kind of like, which
fixes,
I know, like most Marvel movies I like about the same amount.
Right.
So like these differences, it just feels like, what do I am wasting my time? Yeah. So this is both a challenge, but also more interesting to me because we're ranking a bunch of stuff that shouldn't even belong together in a ranking.
Right. So. Well, and before we've seen 24 movies together since May, which is a ton. Yeah. But before we start, I want to talk about really quickly 4 movies that I only saw because Rachel told me to see, and we've talked a lot about them because we both love them so much.
Uh-huh.
And I just want to, because they're so good. Blinded by the Light is the first one, which I never ever would have seen if Rachel hadn't told me to see it. Yay. And it is seriously one of the best movies I saw all year. It's so great. I have weird feelings about Bruce Springsteen in general. I have never really liked him. Now I like him. But I mean, I'm not the super fan, but I certainly relate in that movie to the super fan feeling. Yeah. And I love how it's just grounded in this whole family story. And I just loved it.
Yeah, me too. I just think it captured that whole experience that you go through when you're a teenager and you first get excited about something, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And it did such a good job with that. And yeah, it's one of my favorites of the year as well. So I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. And then Peanut Butter Falcon, which was the sweetest surprise movie ever. I can't get over how much I loved that movie. I can't get over what a great message it is. It's just so great. And that story of, and I think you interviewed, the directors and the writers. And I loved hearing that interview because it made me even like it more that they literally wrote this movie for their Down syndrome friend who wanted a role to act in.
Yep. Yeah, it's really good. I've really wanted to. It's so hard because things are so great for so many different reasons. But I have it in my top 15 right now. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be in my top 2. And then The Farewell, which I really would not have seen had it not been for your urging. And I really liked it. Now, you loved it with a power that I did not find. But I did really like it, and I'm really glad that I saw it.
Yeah.
Because I really, really appreciated in that movie. Well, first of all, Awkwafina is amazing in it. And the grandma is amazing in it. And I loved how subtly and directly at the same time, they explain to you why they keep the information from the grandma that she's sick, and understand why that's part of their culture. And in a way I don't think I ever would have understood. It's really a good movie.
Yeah. And really that also has a personal connection to me because both my grandmas passed this year, and the story of, her and her grandma just really hit home. So, because I definitely appreciated it even more after Sundance, seeing it the second time after that personal experience, which definitely can play a role. So, yeah, it's and I agree. The grandma is that ending just made me just it was so good.
Yeah. And kind of the irony of it is that you talked about this big emotional piece, and that's obviously why. And so I was waiting for that a little bit, but didn't really feel it. It didn't come for me like this big emotional thing. And I was like, is it because there's no, like, it's a really quiet movie. There's not a lot of music cues, not a lot of music in it. I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm just so trained that I need I need the music in the background to tell me how to feel. Because I really thought about it after that. And like, I didn't ever feel this big, I felt parts of it, but I didn't have an emotional reaction like you did to it.
No, I can see that. I can understand that.
And the last one on the honorable mention list was Angry Birds 2, which you really liked. And I went to see with my nieces, and I laughed my head off. Yeah. It was so much more enjoyable than I could have imagined. I had my years playing Angry Birds, so I'm familiar with all of the players. And I liked the first one, okay, but I really liked the second one. That's all.
It was funny. I mean, the plot was not the best, but it made me laugh quite a bit. So I kind of felt like it. I kind of felt like it was my Hotel Transylvania 3 of this summer. I feel like I always have a movie that I know it's not the best movie, but it just makes me laugh, and I just enjoy it. So I'm glad you.
Yeah, we didn't actually watch those together, but I really feel like you're connected to me watching those. So there's those.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So of the 24 that we're going to be ranking here, I only went rotten on 7 of them. So pretty positive about you. So even if one's late on the list, then it's not necessarily awful. And even ones that I went rotten on doesn't mean I hated them. So yeah, there's definitely be some controversial ones on my list.
Well, and I think too, like when I was going through this list, I liked most of the movies too. Like I really, really liked a lot of the movies. So when I was like, that movie's at 15, and I was like, yeah, but I wouldn't move it above any of the rest of them. Like it's a tough list.
Yeah, it is really a tough list.
A lot of good movies this year.
Yeah. It has been a very eclectic, especially for the world of animation. I feel like it's been a very kind of weird year. I don't know. This has been interesting. So, all right. Well, should we dive in, talk about our bottom pick? So
our bottom pick might be the same.
So my bottom pick is Overcomer. We saw this because I'd heard some good things about it. And I try to be open to faith-based films, and a lot of people just completely discount them. I thought, this will just be sort of a sports movie with a faith element, but I just think that the Alex Kendrick is not the best actor, and I think it just got really, really overbearing, and I don't think that Priscilla Shire should be an actress. And when she complimented her own prayer, I died laughing, and it was just too much. It was pretty boring. So it didn't have that motivation that I think you need in a faith-based film for me.
My number 24, I'm going to say, first of all, I agree with you on almost all points on The Overcomer. But it's not my worst movie. It's not at the bottom of my list. My number 24 is Last Christmas.
Yeah. Because
no movie has ever made me so mad. The twist in this, where if you're paying attention, you can pick up on about halfway through. When one sentence is spoken, I knew the whole rest of the movie, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And to have no rom or com in a rom-com makes no sense to me. I just thought it was marketed so poorly because that movie is not what it's made out to be.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, don't dangle Henry Golding and in front of my face and Emilia Clarke and Emma Thompson and then give me that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's I was expecting the best chocolate and I got like the worst sauerkraut. It was just not good.
I have it at 23, so I'm right with you on Last Christmas. It was definitely, without a doubt, the most disappointing movie of the year for me. And I just thought that it wasn't even a satisfactory Christmas movie, in my opinion. It just was. It just made me. It did make me mad. I mean, to have your character end up alone at the end of a romantic comedy is not romantic and not pleasant. And I also thought that her recompense for her bad choices was not enough. I mean, you're gonna out somebody in your family like that. That is not okay. And that deserves more than a bottle of champagne or whatever that was. Like that's a bad thing to do. And it was just treated, I was shocked how lightly that was treated. Her behavior was just so bad. And I don't think that her repentance was strong enough. And then the fact that she just ends up alone is bizarre to me. I don't get it. And so yeah, it was really bad. I agree with you.
Yeah, and it's hard to even express my full disdain with this movie without spoiling anything, which we aren't planning to do. But seriously, this movie made me so mad. And my number 23 is The Overcomer, so we're just flip-flops.
Yeah.
And really, I only picked Last Christmas at the bottom because it made me angry. And The Overcomer at least didn't make me angry.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, oh, we kind of wasted an afternoon with that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Last Christmas, like you see they're right next to each other in my overall ranking. But had a few cute moments that I guess if I was forced to decide which one I'm gonna watch, I would probably watch it over Overcomer. But
you can look at Henry Golding, so there's that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. All right, what do you have at 22?
At 22, I have the remake of The Lion King.
Yeah.
The live action I didn't hate, but it made no impact whatsoever. I thought it was way too scary for my young nieces who I would have been excited to watch it. I thought it was scary. I just thought, and even what they added, they left in the background. I mean, there were funny things with Timon and Pumbaa, which is the only highlight in the whole movie. But it's just not something that stayed with me at all.
Yeah. I mean, I have it slightly higher, but yeah, I mean, I basically agree. I don't. The only reason I guess I have it higher, the slightly higher, is that the core, it's a shot for shot basically remake, and all that remake stuff, the original stuff is so good that it'll be slightly higher than some of these other ones that I just didn't enjoy as much. So that'd be my only excuse, but I completely agree. I certainly went rotten on it, that's for sure. But I have a 22. I have Playing with Fire, and I was rooting for this movie. I wanted it to be better. I feel like we don't get that many solid live action comedies anymore that the whole family can go to and just have a good laugh together. But I just felt like this wasn't funny enough to me. The pratfalls, the poop jokes, the just stuff like that was pretty lazy. I think there are a few little laughs that Keegan-Michael Key and some other people really work for, but I really was turned off by all the product placement. It's a movie for children. I mean, gosh, do we have to bombard them with all of this product placement for weird stuff? Like, what is the spam product placement doing in there? I don't know. That annoyed me. And I don't know. I felt like all of these kids should be a little bit more grateful. And they cause hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage. And so I don't know, not my favorite. But so yeah, I have that at 22.
Mine's only a few higher for that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's a poop joke movie. Yeah. That's the bottom line. It's like, it's ruled by poop jokes. Like,
yeah.
And I know some people who would get a kick out of it, and I really did enjoy Keegan-Michael Key. I just thought he was pretty funny in this.
Yeah.
But I did really cringe and thought, what is Judy Greer doing in this movie?
Yeah,
like, I love her.
Sure. For sure.
But yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. All right. So 21. Did you say you're 22? You're Lion King,
yeah,
right?
My 22 is Lion King, yeah.
Okay. Now 21, I have Lucy in the Sky. And I think partly.
Me too.
Oh, you do? Oh, good. I think partly it's such a case of missed potential. You have this good performance from Natalie Portman, but it felt like it was so obvious to me that this had been written by 3 men, which is what it was. And I just felt like the movie was constantly judging her as like this crazy person, and like giving John Hamm like a complete pass for all of his involvement in all of this. And boy, I'm glad I escaped this nuts job, And I was just, I don't know, that all of it was pretty off-putting to me. And I hated how the aspect ratio kept changing to be like artsy. That annoyed me. And I don't know, it just wasn't a very good movie.
Yeah, I mean, Natalie Portman does, she gives a great performance with mediocre material. I really did feel like she played the unraveling well.
Mm-hmm.
But the material itself was so not sympathetic to her at all, or really understanding. Like, you kind of understand why it's happening because of her trip to space, but you don't. There's absolutely no sympathy, no empathy for her at all. And the men are really looking at her like she's just a nutcase, and there's just no understanding. And it's based on a true story. It's not an actual true story. And I felt like they left out like the sensational part with the diaper. And I was like, I'm not sure why they were making this story without some of those pieces that make it more identifiable. But I don't know. It was just not the greatest movie-going experience, although Natalie Portman was great.
Yeah, I agree with you. So my number 20 is the Lion King remake. So, the only reason it gets above these other 4 is just for the original story and their original songs and that stuff that's really good. And it did look beautiful. But I just thought it was completely cold and empty and just a bankrupt idea. I don't know what they were thinking. And I don't know. Talk about a gimmick movie, if there ever was one.
Oh, it's just a cash cow.
Yeah,
that's all.
yeah. And it worked. They made a ton of money, so good for them. But it's low on my list.
Yeah, and my number 20 is Playing with Fire. So.
Okay, good. All right. So 19, I have Judy at 19.
Me too.
All right, good. I don't know. I'm in the minority amongst a lot of people I see. I thought that this was just completely generic. I feel like I've seen so many rock biopic, fall from grace, whatever type movies. And this, she's such an interesting person. And I just thought it made her just really bland and generic. And I really hated that they didn't use Judy singing. That really took me out of the movie every time. And so, yeah, Renee Zellweger does a good job. And she, I think, looks a lot like her. And she sounds, when she's talking, a lot like her. But she did not even close to get anything to those singing. So that annoyed me. But I don't know. It just completely forgettable, in my opinion.
I did not have any of the issues you did about the singing stuff. I didn't think about it. I thought that Renee killed herself in the singing scenes. I wasn't as comparatively in my head about it. But here's the thing. Judy Garland had a troubled life. There's no doubt about it. I don't like that the whole movie just focuses on like the worst parts of her life and the saddest. It doesn't really honor her. And I thought it was weird. The flashback to like the stuff with Louis B. Mayer, I thought was strange. Yeah. Coupled with like her running into the cute gay couple that adored her and going out to dinner with them. Like it, for some reason, some of the pieces just didn't work together to make a cohesive, like it was just kind of a weird artsy expression of these last horrible years of her life. But I do think Renee Zellweger was amazing in it, and she really did nail Judy in a lot more with the speaking, and they have the look down. But I just overall, I thought the movie was really depressing, and just I was like, I don't need to learn all that stuff about Judy. There was like no hope in it at all.
Yeah. Well, and in my opinion, everything I've heard of her, she was a fighter, and she's somebody who became addicted as a child. I mean, how can you really fault her and be that hard on her because of that? It's not fair what happened to her. And yeah, she was a human who had made choices, but literally she was given drugs by her mother. Like, what are you supposed to do when you're a child? And they tried to show that, at least, I guess, a little bit, but it just didn't. Yeah. It didn't work. And I agree with everything you said. So, so my number 18, I admit that my number 17 I gave Rotten to, and number 18 I gave Fresh to. So everybody can get upset, but but I still like some things about this movie. I don't know, that's just what happened. So this at number 18 is The Art of Racing in the Rain.
Seriously, our lists are to be exactly the same. So is mine.
Okay. Yeah, and I think it is a sweet movie. I think it has a nice heart to it, a nice message overall. The dog is super cute. There's definitely some wacko scenes, which I kind of like it sometimes when there's very strange scenes, like when he has these weird, the dog has these weird fantasies about the zebra. Like,
the animal?
What?
Yeah.
What is happening? That was very strange. And also like very upsetting, the whole sequence where they forget about the dog and he's starving. That was very upsetting. But I think it loses me, the movie, in just the complete caricature of these in-laws. I mean, just ridiculous. Like, nobody is going to apply for custody on the day of the funeral. Like, and they were just totally unfeeling, at least especially the grandfather character. And that was just, it didn't feel authentic. It was too much. So once it gets into the whole courtroom thing, that it's not as effective as the other parts. But I still overall liked it. So yeah, that's what I have at 18.
I overall liked it too. I mean, I like Milo and
Amanda,
I can't remember who plays Amanda, and I mean Kevin, you know, who does the voice of the dog.
Oh, right, yeah, Kevin Costner. Yeah.
Kevin Costner. Oh my gosh, thank you. Was great as the voice of the dog. But this is a kind of weirdly dark movie. My favorite thing about it is that it maintains a perspective of only the dog. So you only see the things the dog can see. So you don't see any like adult things the dog can't see, which I kind of thought was cool. But I don't know. I like your word caricatures, because they were just extreme versions of these people. Like, it's a horrible thing that happened. They have a big tragedy. He has a big dream. These are really bad people. So it just wasn't like my favorite movie ever, but it was nice enough.
Yeah, that's certainly fair. All right, now here's where everyone's gonna freak out. So I have Spider-Man: Far From Home at number 17. I saw this movie twice. I gave it 2 shots because I was like, it has to be better than I remember. I was just tired. I don't know. But I still didn't really love it. It's not awful. I didn't hate it, but I do feel like it's a lower tier Marvel film in the MCU. And I liked most of the teenage stuff. I thought was charming. And Tom Holland is very charming in the role. I was not a big fan of Mysterio. I know a lot of people love him. Jake Gyllenhaal is amazing. But I just thought his plan was so convoluted and there were so many things that you had to buy into in order to buy into this plan working, about these illusions, and I thought that was just tough for me to get invested in that. Also, I thought that the whole thing with the with what was it, the glasses, it didn't really make sense to me with Tony's character. I mean, Tony for a long time, ever since Iron Man 3, has been about lessening his power in a way. It's signing the Sokovia Accord and trying to he's scared of his powers as Iron Man. He wants to lessen that, get rid of some of his agency. So why on earth would he build this giant planet made of droids thing, and then of all people to give it to Peter Parker, a teenager with no failsafe evidently to stop it, does not seem like something Tony would do. And that annoyed me. I didn't like it. And also the fact that you have all of these people that are resentful of Peter Parker, resentful of Tony, coming together to pull off this ridiculous, convoluted plan. I didn't really like that either. I just wish it had stayed more into the teenagers and their experience in Europe, and then maybe I would have been fine with just a standard Marvel villain, that makes some trouble. We'll keep this kind of like with Ant-Man, like keep the movie small, just about, this one little area, this one little thing that Peter has to go up against. And I would have liked it much better. Again, not awful. I didn't hate it, but I was pretty disappointed by it. And I definitely didn't like it as much as most people seem to have. So there you go.
I liked that movie more than you. It's only a few up from here, but we're getting into the just straight movies I like, and so it's just hard to rank them all. Right. I liked it more. I wasn't as bothered by the bad guy, although the Mysterio thing wasn't the greatest. But I just wasn't as bothered. And Tom Holland just can sell me anything.
Yeah, he's really great. There's no doubt.
I just watched an interview today with him, in fact, where he said he felt like his best work was in Spider-Man Far From Home. And I think it's because there's more of an emotional component for Spider-Man in this movie. Mm-hmm. And all of those things you said, I think, are fair about the bad guy. But what I will say is what stayed with me and what I think about when I think about this movie is all the teenage stuff that I did love. Mm-hmm. And is the stuff in Europe, and is and so I guess it was there and it was not as good, but it didn't affect my ability to enjoy it. And because I just loved him and the character so much, I guess it just worked out. Because I was like, oh yeah, that's true, and that's in there, but it's not the stuff that stayed with me. There was a ginormous explosion for the Spider-Man story at the end of that movie with the big reveal. And so
that's a good point.
It didn't make me interested in the next thing, but that was a really big, huge thing that happened at the end of it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right. What do you have at 17?
At number 17, I had Addams Family, which is an animated that I quite liked. I don't have anything really bad to say about it. I thought it was cute. My mom's maiden name is Addams, and she has bad feelings about anything associated to Addams Family.
That's funny.
Because apparently when she was in high school, people would go up to her and do the snaps all the time, and she just hated it. But I just thought it was cute, and it was a good little Halloween cartoon. I liked it. Mm-hmm. But
I did too.
That's just the place I found it on the list because pretty much I like all the rest of the movies.
Same with me. I have it at 16, so just one up. I really liked the animation. I thought it definitely was on a budget, but I like as far as the character designs and some other stuff, I thought it was good. And I also liked any joke that had to do with music. That seems to be a big get with me.
Oh yeah, they were pretty funny in that one.
If you make a joke with music, that was really funny in Angry Birds too, and I thought it was funny here, especially the "Everybody Hurts" joke that made me laugh. And so I enjoyed it. Yeah, the villain isn't the best, but it was serviceable, I guess, for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up with 16. What do you have at 16?
At 16, I have Late Night.
Mm.
Mindy Kaling. I thought and if we're gonna compare, I really liked Emma Thompson in this. I mean, versus her Yugoslavian mother in Last Christmas. That still makes me angry. But I enjoyed Late Night. I thought it was funny. I thought there were, it was. I don't know. It seemed it felt very Mindy Kaling to me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's true. So very good. Okay. So my number 15 is actually Harriet, and I really enjoyed Harriet.
Really? That's so low.
I know.
We have a big difference on that.
Oh, okay, good.
How high mine is.
So I enjoyed it. I gave it fresh. I liked it. I think that, I guess the other ones I just liked a little bit better. I think that it is a very safe movie, which I think is good in a way. And I like it that they did that it's more for families to watch and talk about some of these issues. But there were a few times where I thought they maybe could have been a little bit braver, and that maybe was a little bit saccharine, but I did like it. And so it's not, I don't know, it's not a big, it was way more of a faith-based film than I was expecting, for sure. So that was interesting. And I like the performances. And I don't know. I don't have huge complaints about this one. I just liked the other ones a little better. So yeah, it ended up at 15 for me.
I liked it a lot more, and I'll have more to say about it in a while.
Yeah,
but
right.
My number 15 is Bombshell. Which, to be honest, I really liked. I really, really liked, and I hope that they get nominated for Oscars for hair and makeup, because I had to keep reminding myself through that whole movie that wasn't actually Megyn Kelly, and it was Charlize Theron. And that guy, I mean, they just really spot on. And I don't know. I really, really thought it's very timely. It's a good time to tell that story, and it's fairly recent. And I really think Charlize, and even I thought Nicole did well. I thought Margot Robbie did well, but Charlize Theron killed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, because I have Bombshell at number 14. So yeah, I think that Bombshell, I think it's a good story to tell. I think we need to tell all voices, not just one particular political side of the story. And I think all the performances are really good. I guess where I think it loses me a little bit, I still liked it, still giving it fresh, is that I think the Margot Robbie character loses me a little bit in it. And she's not awful, but she certainly just does a good job with what she has. But I felt like the real characters were much more interesting than this sort of composite character, who I don't know if I 100% bought as like a human being who is Mrs. Fox News, but is this lesbian on the side, and I don't know. I didn't know if I 100% bought her character, and she is asked to carry quite a bit of weight for the script. Also, there was just something about it that felt more like a television movie to me, and I don't know why. And I love television movies, so that's not like a huge insult, but
I did feel a little bit like it felt like an HBO movie to me.
Yeah, it did.
And I don't even know what the markers are for that, but it
Yeah,
did
me
kind of
either.
feel that way. And maybe it's just because it was so political. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you and I talked about this. I think that the Margot Robbie plays like a fictional
Yeah.
anchor or news person, whereas Nicole Kidman and Charlize are playing actual real people, and she carries the weight of having to have the actual sexual assault kind of be on screen with her, and we talked about, like, I would guess that it had to be that way because they couldn't recreate something that really happened for the other ones.
Right. Yeah. No, I think,
my guess.
yeah, I'm sure that's true. I don't know if they just 100% pulled it off. I still liked it, but anyway, I have it at 14. But
she still did great in it. It just was a weird thing for the character. I'm with you.
So what do you have at 14?
At 14, I have Spider-Man: Far From Home. Again, we're into the movies I just really liked, and I liked it more than you, and we already talked about it.
Very good. Okay. 13, I have Dora and the Lost City of Gold. When I was going into this movie, I said in the preview show that David and I do, I said, there's so much potential in Dora and in breaking the fourth wall and being really nutty and crazy and bonkers, and it could be really fun. But I'm like, oh, they're not going to do that. It's not that. And then I watched the movie. I'm like, they did it. Oh my gosh. It was so exciting to me. And I thought it was really funny, and I thought that everybody was charming, and sure, there's some more sort of puerile jokes, but for the most part, they're real funny jokes, and everybody is just really funny, and it was just bonkers. It was crazy, and I particularly loved the animated sequence was crazy, and I loved that, and I think it was fun to go with your niece. That definitely helped, I think. More. But yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, I really liked Dora. I thought it was really fun, and that animated sequence was hilarious.
Yeah, so good.
And it's just a fun little, like, family-friendly adventure. Like, it kind of can fill a little bit of the spot that you're talking about that Playing with Fire disappointed you in.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Dora is sort of that. I just really liked it. But I actually have at 13 Maiden, which is a documentary I really liked about the first all-female round-the-world crew. And I loved it. It's really, really cool how they have so much footage from that time in, I think, the 80s.
Yeah.
And that so many of the women were part of the making of the documentary, so they're talking to them today about that time, and they could intersperse it with the actual live footage from then. Like, it just was really cool.
Yeah.
Like, one of the best documentaries I've seen in a long time.
Very good. Yeah, I have that a lot higher, but yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It really is people should see it. It's not a boring documentary. It's really
it's great.
All right. Well, number 12, we'll definitely disagree on, but I did like it. I have A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood at number 12. I thought that I thought the Tom Hanks was great as Mr. Rogers. And I thought there were some nice moments. I like Chris Cooper. He's like the best at playing the sort of bitter, horrible father kind of role.
Yeah.
But, so he's really good at that. Yeah, I mean, I guess why it's not in my top tier is just because I think that there's so much in Fred Rogers' life that we see in the documentary that I felt like, oh, that's so cinematic. That's so good. And I wish that they had done a little bit more. I get it, they were trying to do something different, and I guess I appreciate that to a certain extent, but I felt like a lot of the Vogel stuff was a little bland. It was stuff that I've seen that story a lot of times, where some of the stuff that happened with Mr. Rogers is such a unique person that I appreciate them trying to do something different, but in the end, I don't know. I had mixed feelings about it, I guess, but I still liked it, and I think just Tom Hanks's performance alone is enough for me to definitely still enjoy it, and it definitely has a nice message, and it's very sweet. But that's where I have it. Is at 12.
You know that we disagree on this movie, and that mine will be higher. But I will say this, that it's so funny to me how much you keep bringing up the documentary, because I feel like the point gets missed that that's not the story they were telling. Like, I watched a panel of them talking about it when it was first released, and it had Tom Hanks, and it had the cast, it had the director, and it had the guy that really did the interview in the article. His name is different. And it's even a different magazine, I think, that he worked for. Yeah. But they're really telling his story. It struck me how much they aren't trying to talk about Mr. Rogers, and it goes to me again about a marketing issue, because Tom Hanks is square right in the middle of the poster. Yeah. And there are lots of posters that don't even have, I can't even think of that actor's name right now, Matthew Rhys. Yeah. On it at all. And it's really Matthew Rhys that is the lead actor, because it's his story. And watching that panel, I just realized, like, their intent wasn't to make a movie about Mr. Rogers' life or Mr. Rogers. Their intent was to make a movie about Mr. Rogers' effect on this one man, and how I think Mr. Rogers has effect on the humans, because he does. Yeah. And there were really cool things, and he's a supporting role in that, and I think it's a mismarketing. Like yeah. You watch all the stuff about it and you think it's a movie about Mr. Rogers, but it's about his effect on one human and not about his life and everything else. And I think they should make another movie about his full life that is different from the documentary. But I really, what it set out to do, I feel like it fully accomplished. But anyway.
I appreciate that. I didn't think that the Vogel store, Lloyd Vogel, that's what it is. I didn't think it was as, I guess I didn't think it was as compelling as you did. I didn't hate it. I still liked it. Yeah. But it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah. What number are we on?
12.
12. At 12, I had Dora.
Okay, good. All right. Number 11, I have Late Night. And I have to admit, on the second watch, it wasn't quite as good. I might have had some, they say that even though I constantly live in the high altitude, they kind of joke sometimes about high altitude sickness with Sundance. And I admit, I probably had a little bit of that with this when I first saw it at Sundance. But I don't know. I really liked the script. I thought it was funny. And I thought that it did a pretty good job of weaving in like very contemporary new themes without like beating you over the head with them. And I appreciated that. I thought that Mindy Kaling was really funny, and there was just like a little bit of romance for her, which it didn't like take over the story. And I thought that her and Emma Thompson had nice chemistry, and it's definitely one that I would watch again. And I love romantic comedies type. I love the tone of this movie. That's very me. So I have it at 11.
And this is where you'll think it's funny. At 11, I have Toy Story 4.
Oh wow! Yeah,
I know. I liked it. I did enjoy it. I felt like it was kind of dark, and there's been a lot of talk about whether it's necessary. I thought it was fine. The franchise could have ended after 3. I do think there are elements of this that made it a positive thing that they went to 4, and I do appreciate this whole the idea of kind of Woody separating from the group and kind of graduating. I do appreciate that, but there are some things in it that were just that were funny. I thought it was funny, but it just was like, it's my 4th favorite Toy Story.
Yeah, interesting. Very good. Okay, so number 10 for me is I have Abominable at 10. And this was such a pleasant surprise. It was such a sweet movie. There was such a nice heart to it between, I mean, we've seen the story a lot of times between a child finding a creature or an alien or a dragon or, you know, something like that, and having to take care of it. But it's usually a dynamic that works for me and that I like, and it worked for me here. And I thought that it had some nice laughs. I absolutely loved the music. They definitely kind of use the magic power of the Yeti for like whatever they want. It's sort of it's sort of a convenient thing in the script, but whatever. I still enjoyed it, and I thought it had some really beautiful animation. And I tend to not like DreamWorks comedies very much. They're a little too broad for my taste, a little too parody heavy. And but this I liked, and so yeah, I have it a 10.
I really liked the Bumble too. I really like the animation, and there is just this. There's a magical quality, but there's also a mythical, like fantasy quality to it that I really wasn't expecting, and I really liked. I really liked the storytelling in this. It came out of nowhere for me. Like I didn't have a lot of expectations going in. There's been honestly several Yeti things.
Yeah.
In the last in animation specifically, this is by far my favorite. I quite liked it. I have that at 9, but my number 10 was Knives Out, which I really liked. So fun. Knives Out, I just thought was really fun. The cast is fun. Daniel Craig honestly steals the show with that Southern accent and playing that detective.
Yeah.
Chris Evans is like just could not find a better role that is more opposite Captain America. And I can't remember her name, but I really liked the girl lead that plays the nursemaid.
Yeah.
Just the whole of it. It does keep you guessing. It's so convoluted. There's no way to guess it. It's not like you can figure out how it all is gonna be figured out. But it's just really fun, and I enjoyed it. Yeah. That was my number 10.
Yeah, Ana de Armas is her name. But it's my number 9, so I'm right with you on that one. And it was just fun. It was a fun time at the movies. And people that are overthinking it and saying, "Oh, it's propaganda or whatever nonsense." It's just a lark. It's not something to be taken. It's not something to be overexamined. I appreciated the Hallmark jokes. That was hilarious.
You're right.
It was just a good time. To go with your friends. And so yeah, I have it at 9. So number 8, I have Downton Abbey, the movie, and I just thought they did about as good a job as you could do of taking this beloved series, and giving us another basically long episode of the series. And I liked all of the arcs for every character. There wasn't really anybody that I didn't like what happened to them. And it was beautifully made, sumptuously made. The costumes, of course, are gorgeous. It was completely fulfilling for everything that I wanted from a Downton Abbey movie.
My number 8 is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which we know I liked more than you. My number 7 is Downton Abbey, and I think for the same reason, like I described it as like a cozy blanket on a brisk fall afternoon. Like I just felt like I was so comfortable. It was so lovely to like just zoom in on my old friends that had come by and visited my house for all those weeks when it was on TV. And then it just left it kind of humming and going along as it always had. And we zoomed back out and went home. And it just felt like it was just so satisfying. It's a great word. I really, really liked it.
Well, and we're getting into my top 20 of the year period here. I have Downton Abbey at 19. So I really liked it a lot.
Cool.
Yeah.
That was my number 7. So what's your number 7?
My number 7 is Rocket Man. And it's number 18 on my ranking list. For all the movies, I loved it. I thought that it was so creative and unexpected. Just like we were talking about with Judy, where it was just so bland, like a million other movies I'd seen. Here you have a similar story, really, of celebrity spiraling out of control, that we've seen a lot of times in these rock biopics. And here you have, they took a creative risk to tell the story in a new way. And I loved it. I thought it was very inspiring, just creatively inspiring, but also his, music and his coming out of it. And when people didn't think that he could was great. And sure, it relies on a bunch of cliches of the genre, but I thought it did it all that it could do to kind of shake it up and try to do different things. And I liked Richard Madden a lot in it, even though he's a bad guy. He was so dreamy. And Taron Egerton, I think, is one of the best performances of the year. So yeah, that's what I have at 7.
And you clearly must think it's less offensive for Taron Egerton to sing in for Elton John than
that's fair.
Renee Zellweger to sing for Judy.
Yeah, that's true.
He does his singing, and I think it's great. It's pretty seamless.
Yeah.
I just think Taron Egerton is so great in this. Oh my gosh, I loved that movie.
Yeah. So
my number. What are we on? We're on.
Did you do 7?
Yeah,
Downton
my
Abbey
7 was
was your
Downton
7. Okay, so
Yeah.
number 6.
You're on 6. Yeah.
6. Number 6 for me is 1917, and that's very hard. This one's the hardest one to rank by far, because it's a war movie that's pretty brutal. That's a hard watch. I was pretty emotional after I saw it. What this soldier has to go through. It really reminded me a lot of Hacksaw Ridge, just in the sense that Hacksaw Ridge is really just about one man, as opposed to a movie that's about a battle, about a group of soldiers, a regiment, whatever. Both movies to me are about just one person with their convictions. How can they get through, and can they make it? And you're just you get so invested in that one person. Come on. And it makes you feel. I felt so tense watching this, and I think this is probably a better movie than Hacksaw Ridge, but I do love Hacksaw Ridge because of the faith element, and I found it so inspirational. But 1917, I think that it's very elevated by the incredible cinematography of Roger Deakins. I think it's definitely one of the best of the year in that regard. And I was just on the edge of my seat. Well, how's he going to make it? What's going to happen? I thought it was really well done.
My number 6 is also 1917, and Roger Deakins. I hope he wins an Oscar.
Yeah, he should.
For real. This movie is shot amazingly. And to be honest, I was on the edge of my seat for a lot of the first part of the movie because I wasn't sure how gory or war horrific it was going to be. And I feel kind of sensitive about violence. Mm-hmm. And I was more on the edge of my seat, not knowing what to expect. But it does show the horrors of war, oh my gosh, rats and dead bodies, but less violence, if that makes sense. But I also love these stories like Hacksaw Ridge and even Saving Private Ryan, where it's one man in the midst of all of it. They're good reminders that it's not survival of the fittest, it's survival of the luckiest in these wars and all of that. And it's cool. I half expected in the last scene for something different to happen because of everything he'd been through. I love all the cameos in this movie, 1917. All the people that are in it for 2 or 3 minutes, really big name people, that just really add great things to it, because it is really just one guy's story. It starts a little bit as 2 guys that quickly becomes one. It's a really great movie.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Now we're getting into my top 10 of the year total. So
okay.
Yeah.
My number 5 is Ford v Ferrari.
Yes, Ford v Ferrari is really good. Yeah.
I loved it. There's nothing better than watching Christian Bale and Matt Damon play off of each other. They crackle in a way that is just amazing. Their on-screen chemistry is so great. There's a point when they even have a fist fight, and that is hilarious. This movie is foremost about friendship, and then it's about cars. And I really, really love this story. I love that it is a true story about these humans, and I didn't know it. And good night. This is a good movie.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That's why I have it very high. So my number 5 is Maiden. All the reasons that you said that we talked about. I just think it's such an inspiring story without really trying to. It's just telling their story, and their story is inspirational. Like, you don't feel manipulated, at least I didn't, watching it. And you just they weren't trying to be feminist archetypes. That's one thing I appreciated. They weren't, they wanted to actually race. They weren't doing this to be the first women. They were doing it because that was the only way they could do it. And so
Right.
I thought they were just so great. And it was so great how they got yeah, they have all the old footage, but they got the old commentators who were so doubtful and
Right.
them back and their expressions. So that was really funny and done in good natured fun, I thought. And I just love this. I love this movie, and I really want more people to see it. It's go and rent it because I think it would be such a great movie to watch with your kids and get them just inspired and excited about their
Yeah.
goals.
And
So,
I really liked it too, but I felt
yeah,
maybe how you felt about 1917, about how it's a weird movie to rank.
yeah,
That one felt more of a weird movie to rank because it's not like any of the others, and it's not like a scripted
narrative, yeah,
movie narrative. It felt like it kind of fell down lower on my list. Not because I didn't like it any more or less.
yeah.
I just liked
No,
these other movies better. That's all.
no, I get that. I
And
totally do.
I felt that anyway. But
Yeah,
it's
no, I
great.
get that.
Great.
So what do you have at 4?
At 4, I have Harriet, which
Oh,
was
wow. Interesting.
way back when in this ranking for you.
I didn't know that you
Uh,
loved it that much. This is new to me. That's exciting.
well, here's the secret about me is that I have a degree in American history with
Mhm.
a specific military history focus, which means I have specific interest in movies like Harriet and 1917. But I did a very big study about the Civil War when I was in
Mhm.
college. So I have, number one, already heightened interest
Yeah.
in that time period in general. I did not know enough about Harriet Tubman going into that movie, so I was fascinated. And Cynthia Erivo, my goodness,
Yeah.
she's a Tony Award-winning actress, and I felt the music through line that she adds to this, which is kind of adds to the faith portion of it that you talked about, I thought was beautiful. It made it
Mhm.
very different. And I know that you kept talking about this, it needed to be more brave. I thought it was brave to keep it cleaner, and
Mhm.
I thought it was brave to keep it family friendly,
Mhm.
because they could show they showed some yucky stuff, but they could have shown on camera far worse things that happened to slaves in
For sure.
the
Yeah.
Civil War era.
Yeah.
But they didn't. A lot of that stuff happens off screen on purpose, I think, to keep it family friendly.
Yeah.
I felt like it was so inspiring, inspiring for our country, inspiring just knowing about her, and I really, really loved it.
Yeah. I think it'll be a great movie that they will show in schools, and it'll be a great source of communication and learning. So
Yeah.
I did enjoy it. So very
And on
good.
your scale of like how much you would like turn to it on a Saturday afternoon,
Uh-huh.
I would pick it. I would
Yeah.
pick it a lot. Like I've probably seen Glory 200 times.
Oh, wow.
Like
Okay. Yeah.
I like Civil War stuff. So there you go.
Cool. Good. Okay. Number 4 for me is one I've really debated about where to put it, because I love it. But I don't know. I'm just not sure because I've only seen it once, is Frozen 2. And I feel like I need to see it a second time to kind of really, we haven't done the podcast on it, or me and Stanford, because I just feel like I need to see it a second time to really kind of, because really think about the story and just some of the, I don't know. But I have it at 4 because I did love it. I loved the animation. I thought it was beautiful. I loved the relationship between Anna and Elsa and how it grew. I am like obsessed with Lost in the Woods. I thought it was hilarious. I think it's sort of an interesting, weird story that they went with to kind of have this they have this sort of native people that their ancestors basically betrayed, and kind of the girls having to kind of deal with this, and that sort of opens a box about their parents and their choices, and what does sort of letting it go really mean for Elsa, and what her calling really is. And so I really loved it, but again, I feel like I need to see it I need to see it a second time before I'm ready to declare it as better than these other three. But it's in my top 10 of the year, so I really like it.
My Frozen 2 is my number 3, and I loved it. I mean, I felt like, I mean, we had cautious expectations going in because sequels are never the king of the hill. A lot of people have said one way or the other, they thought it was better than the first one. They thought it was, you know, not as good as the first one, whatever. I felt like it was a perfect companion to the first one, like equally as good, but I almost think it's a little funnier. I think they added a little more for the adults in it, because Lost in the Woods is so squarely for adults.
Yeah.
Because no kid gets why that's so funny, but having an 80s rock ballad right square in the middle of an animated movie is the best thing ever. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I thought, Lost is kind of funnier, but it's also a little bit sadder and darker too. Like there's moments when, you know, they think different characters are not alive anymore. And so there's just this like kind of, and like this revisit of what happened with their parents is pretty dark stuff. Yeah. So it's just an interesting, I don't know. I just crazy loved it. I did not think I could like any music as much as I liked the first set of music, and I love this music. So they just really nailed it, and I loved it.
Yeah, I agree. Number 3, I have Ford v Ferrari. And I completely agree with everything you said. I thought that it was just such a great story of friendship. And I love an underdog sports movie, whether documentary or narrative. And so that's a ticket for me. And excuse me. And I just thought they had great chemistry, Matt Damon and Christian Bale. I thought that really the racing was kind of secondary to that relationship that they had. And I mean, I just thought one of the best scenes of the movie was when they get the head of Ford in the race car. He's like freaking out. And that was so good. And I thought that Christian Bale's wife was very well cast, that she did a really good job with a small part. That I really enjoyed her performance. I also liked, I think it's Noah Jupe as his child, as Christian Bale's son, that he was really good. I just loved it. I thought it was such a satisfying, entertaining movie, even though it was 1 billion degrees in the theater we saw it. I still really
we saw it in a sauna.
So that says something, I think.
Right. So we like couldn't get up and go because you were just in it so much.
Yeah. So did you say you had Frozen at 3?
Yeah, Frozen 2 is at 3.
Yeah. So So
my number 2 is Rocket Man.
Oh, great. Okay, good. Yeah.
So we already talked about a little bit. I insanely loved that movie. Like I just really liked it.
It's so good.
I liked the visuals of it, how they duplicated the kind of flamboyant nature of Elton John with Taron was great. Even the opening scene where he's in that just crazy thing with the wings and going to a meeting and I just really, his performance is, but I liked the whole aspect. I liked how they addressed his past. I liked how they introduced different things. I just liked start to finish. I liked him singing. I just liked that movie.
yeah, it's so good. I love it too. All right. I went back and forth a lot on my one and two.
I know what was left, and I'm so curious to hear what your number 2 is.
Even now I'm like, my number 2 is Parasite. I
knew it. I knew you weren't going to break the number 1. I knew it.
So
although I can't believe it. Okay, go ahead.
People had told me this is so great. This is one of the best movies of the year. You got to see it. I had heard a lot of hyperbole about it. And usually that's kind of dangerous, right? Especially one of these artsy movies, you know, it could be something like Sorry to Bother You, which I did not like at all. Or Beale Street Could Talk. I did not like that either. So it can be a little risky, but we ended up going and it lived up to the hype. To me, it was so creative. It was so original. It was so interesting. It had something to say without like ramming it into your head. It was funny. All of the characters I felt felt authentic and I could relate to, whether it's the rich family or the poor family. I didn't feel like any of them were terrible humans or caricatures. It would have been so easy to do with the rich people, especially. And that's one thing that Hollywood often gets wrong, is like someone like Mark Zuckerberg is just like an evil guy. He's a rich guy. And they don't ever like try to kind of show more of their character, who they are. And I felt like both groups, I understood where they were coming from, and I felt like like the rich mom, I think that she is trying to be a good mom, and I think that her husband's kind of aloof, but not like so much. Like I feel like they love each other, and he's just kind of confident in her running the home. And we even get a scene with them being intimate towards the end, and I don't know, I felt like I understood them as a couple, and they felt real to me, and I felt like all the characters felt very real to me, despite being in this interesting situation. And even just like little things, like the fact that the rich family starts to notice the smell of the poor family. That was like a really interesting way of saying something without the character, like compared to The Dead Don't Die, which I saw this there with like literally the narrators like talking about commercialism and telling you exactly what you're supposed to think. That's annoying. This didn't do it. This just told an interesting story with interesting characters, with an amazing house. So the production design was all kind of worked, and I really liked it. So yeah, I have it at 2.
I have it at 1. I mean,
Yeah.
it's my favorite movie I've seen this year, and I think for so many reasons. Probably the first is that I wouldn't have seen it otherwise.
Yeah.
Like because it's billed as a horror, and it has horror elements. I would never pick to see a horror. It's not my genre. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
It has horror elements, but none that caused any reaction in me.
Yeah.
This is such an original story, one that you cannot foresee where it's going. It's it takes you down a path that you cannot, there's no way you could guess. And I love that. I love that the point about different classes is made through of all of your senses visually, and they talk about the smell, and there is an emotional component to it. Like there's all of these things that they're really showing the class differences, which I think was brilliant. These actors were just perfection.
Yeah.
And even like some of the shocking stuff, it kind of goes in a way crazy place, but it makes sense for the whole story.
Yeah.
And I thought about it a lot since I watched it. It is just one of these things where I'm like, I never would have guessed. I never would have chosen to see it, and I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, that's the benefit of seeing a lot of movies like you and I do, is that, yeah, you see a lot of bland movies or some not so good movies, but when you find that one that you would never have seen if you were just a casual moviegoer, it's so exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really is.
That movie really knocked my socks off.
Yeah.
Like in a way, I feel like I haven't had that kind of reaction in like a long time. Anyway,
Yeah.
I just loved it.
Very good. I agree. My number 1 is Toy Story 4, and I just loved it. I really connected emotionally with this movie, and granted, Pixar is almost always able to make me do that. They just get me, I guess. But I thought that, first of all, the animation. I'm a huge, animation is my thing, and the animation was stunning and beautiful. But I thought almost every plot point really worked. I was somewhat skeptical going into it, but it made so much sense to me, because really, when you think about it, the end of Toy Story 3 is the perfect ending for Andy. But if you really think about that ending for Woody, it's not very satisfying. He's going to end up going through this cycle of being played with and not played with again and again and again and again and again. So in order for them to give Woody a kind of send him to it's almost like sending him to spirit world in a way, even though he's on Earth, because these are mortal beings for all we know. There's no real death, I don't think, for toys. It's in this world. So you have to kind of leave him in a soft spot where he's going to be not have to go through that continual cycle of abandonment. And so I think they were so brilliant in setting up this sort of alternate world where he could be himself, basically for the rest of his life, that he's done, and he's done his service. He's run a good race. He's fought the fight, as the scripture says. And I think that really his giving Bonnie Forky is kind of his final gift to children. And that's why it was so important to him. And I loved him basically being a dad to Forky. It was the best. And I loved Forky. I thought he was so funny and so just the best. And I get the complaint that the other characters aren't in it as much, and that's valid, but I still, when Buzz tells Woody that it's okay, that ruined me. And it was so good. And yeah, and I thought that, all the stuff with Gabby was way better than I expected. I thought she was just going to be sort of a generic twist villain that they've had in a million Disney/Pixar movies, like Lotso kind of, or something like that. But it turns out she wasn't. She was just like really lonely. And I thought that her arc, when she gets taken by the child at the end, was so well done. And I even, and it's sort of I hate I feel like there's some such a trope in animated films where the characters end up driving, but this, with them like ruining the dad's car, and like that was funny to me. And so I just loved it. It really spoke to me emotionally, and I thought it was such a brilliant ending for a character that I absolutely love. Woody is just one of my all-time favorites, ever since the original Toy Story, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And so to me, that meant a lot to me that he ended in a spot that that made me feel good. And so there you go. That's why it's my favorite of all these movies. So
good. I mean, it didn't even make my top 10, but I respect your love for animation. It is a beautifully animated. It just was dark, and I know that it was Woody's story, maybe from the beginning, because the beginning is a new toy being Buzz entering the playing field. So it was Woody's to kind of wrap up. But they all are going to have that experience of having to go through the cycles. I'm like, Buzz is just left to do it instead, which is yeah.
But Buzz started later. Like, Woody was Andy's toy a long time. Well,
I know, but Andy's gone, so he's done with all of them, and so they're all in that same cycle. Like, I get it. I know that you love it, and that it's your favorite thing, and so that's great. It's just not mine. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many parents said it was too dark for their kids. Mm-hmm. It's sad. The Gabby character is kind of scary. And that's okay. It's all okay. It just wasn't my favorite, but I did like it. Like, if I were ranking it, I would certainly rank it high, and I did,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that.
I just would never put it above Parasite.
They're so different. It's really hard. It's a totally different experience.
It is. One is totally different.
Yeah, one is new characters, new idea, creativity, interesting things to say. Others is characters that I've been involved with and rooting for since 1994. And it's just such a different experience.
When you talk about Toy Story 4, it sounds like to me that was your comfy blanket movie. Like, you just felt so you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like, it's the best comfy blanket ever. And it's
and often that is the case
so good
for me with Pixar. They just make movies that just make you feel good. Like, even ones that they give you the emotion, they give you the characters. Like, sure, they have their Cars 2, they have a few that aren't as good, but I just, especially the Toy Story movies, I just think they have knocked every single one of them out of the park. I absolutely love all four, and I think that some of the stuff with Lotso and like and them getting in the third one and them getting almost incinerated, I actually think that's more intense and darker than anything we see in this movie. But I still love Toy Story 3. But
so if you had to rank the four, are you going 1, 4, 3, 2?
I think actually 3 is my. I think that 3 is actually my least favorite, but I still love it. Okay. But yeah, I think I would go actually 1, 4, 2, 3. I think. Okay. But I don't know. I love them all. It's splitting hairs. I just think they're characters that I love. The animation is groundbreaking in all 4, and I love the. I just love what they did with them. It's my it's my favorite franchise. So.
I love it. Well, this was 24 more movies.
Yeah, we did it. Oh my gosh.
I'm pretty sure we're going to a movie in a couple days too.
Yeah,
so we'll have it. We'll get started on the 3rd installment.
Yes. So let us know if you're listening, what you think of all the different movies that we talked about. And I'll put a list. So if you want to do your own ranking, if you've seen these or some of these, then do your own ranking video. That would be really fun. And let us know if you think we're crazy, or maybe you think I'm crazy and you agree more with Jen. That would be great. Let us know in the comment section or on Twitter, or you can let me know on Twitter. That would be really, really fun. And yeah, you can follow me all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, at Rachel's Reviews, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And so check that out. And yeah, we're going to have a busy December with a lot more reviews coming out. I'm excited about that. And then also make sure you're following me at the Hallmarkies podcast all over the place. We just had an interview with all the stars of Twinkle All the Way, including Sarah Drew and Ryan McPartlin. And the director, Brian Herzlinger. That was epic and so much fun. So definitely you want to be subscribed and following at the Hallmarkies podcast, because we have a lot of fun over there. So there we go. Well, thanks so much, Jen. I really appreciate you coming on. And
thanks, it was great.
We're looking forward to 24 more.
Woo!
Okay.